Welcome to a new episode of the World AIDS Day podcast of BZGA, Deutsche Aidshilfe and Deutsche AIDS-Stiftung. We're doing this in English today because our guest is English speaking and a few other languages, I suppose.
Yeah, mostly Russian and Ukrainian.
Mostly Russian and Ukrainian. Her name is Kristina Shapran and she is from Ukraine but lives in Berlin now.
Yeah.
And tell us a bit about yourself.
Well, I'm the person who lives with HIV 7 last years and who actually not proud of HIV but proud of myself in this context.
Mm-hmm. And you're an educator?
Yeah, I'm calling myself as a sex educator. Also, I'm cuddle events facilitator. And
Cuddle events?
Yeah.
Tell me what that is.
That's events where people are coming to cuddle. It's a safe space where they can explore their boundaries, explore how to build a safe contact with strangers, and how to ask about something what you want, how to say no, and also how to be honest with yourself, because if you don't really feel yourself somehow and you're not really self-responsible, you will not get what you want. And that will be interesting experience for you. So cuddle events, that's a good playground or training playground for
life, really.
Yes. Like people have, they can find some tools which they can catch and go then to real life and really to feel what the difference now. I see a lot of people who are coming from time to time and their development as well. Really
I can imagine. It's really interesting. Of course, I kind of stopped you while you were explaining what you're doing. This is what you do for a living also?
Yeah. Like last 3 years, that's my main events and main thing which I'm doing. Also now I live in Berlin. I'm still trying to go out of social help and job center and all this because it's quite helpful, but still also annoying because I was going through this losing of identity, like who am I, what I can do, 10 months of doing nothing when I came here. And then I realized no, I want to do something important. And that was not definitely just to find any job, because I would go depressive and I don't know how it would finish. And these cuddle events and trainings about, for example, sexual intelligence, which I'm making as well. That's something what I really, really good in and what makes me to feel much better.
How does one become a cuddle expert? What's your professional biography?
Well, I guess that was nothing to do with professional biography because first 10, 11 years of my professional life, I was a journalist and screenwriter on TV. But since my 18, I was really, really, really interested in sex. I also was sexually addicted, which was at one point was really a problem. And that's a funny story because at one point when I really understood that I'm addicted and that's a problem, I found even some numbers of psychotherapists who are working with addictions and okay, I'm gonna do it because I'm destroying my life now. And then actually, I don't want to do something with it. Maybe to control it a little bit more, but not to,
you didn't want to be sober.
Cut sex from my life because it's fun for me and I'm bright and I'm interesting. And I was okay, universe, it should be something what will stop me. In 2 weeks, I got my positive test, hello girl, you're HIV positive. And I'm
as they say, be careful what you wish for.
Oh yeah. And I was okay, universe, that's not something what I was asking for, but
no.
Okay. I was really, really lucky that I knew everything about HIV because I was working on medical project. And I had all this fresh information about partner 2, so that HIV positive people can be safe for anyone. And I'm okay, I will be fine. But the next thing in my head was never ever tell anyone about that.
Right.
And like then like why? Because they will be scared and I'm super social. Okay, they will be scared. Why? Well, because we in Ukraine have an epidemic and have no information, blah, blah, blah. Are you scared about HIV? No. Why? Because I know everything. Okay, Kristina, what to do with it? And I'm like, oh,
Information
I know.
is helpful.
Yeah, and I started to talk with people first privately. And when 90% of people were asking me like, why nobody is talking about this like you do? I found that, actually might be the best idea just to open my status and to talk openly. And so I did it on Facebook and Instagram, and that changed my life a lot. And there, I really started to change also like my relationships with myself, because HIV made me to do it, to talk, to be my first fan, to be my first best friend, and to learn what exactly sex is for me. I was going through psychotherapy a lot. I was working on myself a lot and learning more about sex, like deeply, not about 100 techniques of blowjob.
Penetration. Yeah.
But more about what is going on in my head and inside of me when I have sex. And I realized that a lot of people, not only me, who go into sex when they want just to be supported or just to be hugged or to feel tenderness. And there I started to separate tactility from sexual tactility, and that made me a cuddle expert.
Okay, but how does one go about making that a profession? When did you start your first events? What did that look like?
Well, that was 3 years ago. First I was making lectures about consent culture.
That was still in Ukraine, right?
Yes, in Kiev. And one girl, she was facilitating cuddle events as well. That's actually American practice from 18th, I guess, or 80s or 70s. So she was studying it from one other facilitator, and then I started from her, and we started to make cuddle events together first for 30 to 40 people, and then I just tried to do it by myself more and more. And because of my own experience as well, like I'm doing it deeper and deeper and deeper. And now if I'm coming to Ukraine as well, because now I'm traveling from time to time, and when I'm coming there, every time I can tell like, okay guys, in 1 week I will make a cuddle event. It will be 25, 26 people there. And it's always so deep. Sometimes I'm holding people who are crying on my shoulder, and I'm holding them like a baby, because they're coming to feel themselves, really, like to be in any emotion, in any state, in depression, or having a lot of things inside to share, and have this safe space really to be taken with it. And
that sounds like, first of all, a very intense experience, but also like something you actually, how do you get some distance between yourself and all this weight that people might put on you in these situations?
For the first, might be last 7 years, I'm also working on myself a lot, like to be stable. Because if you are not stable, you cannot do these events at all, because people need some ground. And I'm not doing it from being hungry of tactility. I'm just have opportunity to hold everything, because I was struggling a lot in my life, not only with HIV, but also before. And I guess that made me to be, oh my gosh, I forgot the word in English, like really to take a lot and to be patient and to be...
Have empathy?
Empathy and compassion, I guess. Yeah. So to be aware and kind to myself first, and then to people as well.
before we started the interview, we were talking about what you're comfortable talking about and what not. And you said that you don't want to talk about the war at large, which we totally understand and respect. I have a question, though, about it. Maybe you have some information. Do you know how it is for people who had to leave Ukraine and come to Germany, for example, and have HIV? Is the way that they have access to medical care and medication? Do you know anything about that? Is that working well in Germany?
Yeah, actually that's working well. We have also in Berlin and now in, I guess, Hanover and Hamburg, if I'm not wrong, our Ukrainian organization called Plus Ukraine, where volunteers are helping and supporting Ukrainian positive people, like with going through all this bureaucracy stuff, also to find the doctor, to have medicines, to find any solutions with any questions according to HIV. Also, they are making supporting groups, and maybe we will make one project together, like about boundaries and sexual intelligence with cuddle events as well, and some other trainings more body oriented. So yeah, but there is still a lot of questions because of self-stigma, which is huge for Ukrainians.
Yeah.
Because sometimes they even don't think to ask about such an organization. They are so scared to be stigmatized here. Also, for example, as I know about gay men who are coming from Ukraine, mostly if they don't have anyone in big cities, they are sent to they can be sent to small cities, and they don't want to be there because of, again, stigma and some scares. They are coming to Berlin. They cannot really have this medical insurance because they were like sent to another place, and that's a problem because they still need medicines. And we had a lot of different cases where people were having pause like 1-2 months in treatment because of this fear, because they needed to be in small town, they couldn't, they came to the city, and they have no idea what to do now.
Right. So they would have had access to medication, but
so for people like this, Plus Ukraine is a perfect organization which really can help.
I'm going to put that in the show notes so people can look it up. Yeah.
How does one, in your living situation right now, you're in a new country, you didn't want to come here, you had to come here because of circumstances that were not under your control. And you don't have the language yet. You're working on that as well, I suppose. And how does one be stable in these situations?
I guess I was one of that lucky people who not only had to, but also somehow wanted to move, because last 5 years I didn't really felt really at home in Ukraine. And I realized that my mindset is much more European than Ukrainian. So, but I was totally not able to come to Europe. I had no money. I had no, work, which I really could be paid for. And only once I was in Berlin, I made a small lecture in cafe and one small cuddle event. So I already had a few people who was interested in what I'm doing. And that's why when the war started, I realized that, okay, where I can go, I had no place in Ukraine where to go. And I realized that only one place where I might be survive because I can work somehow, even if it will be minimum of work and minimum of money, it's Berlin. And I just texted to one guy like, hey, can I stay at your place a few days? That was like 2 days before war started, because I heard something that might be, it will come. And I started to plan anything. And I just didn't, I wasn't lucky to go before the start. So it was like second or third day of war. And I guess this inner feeling that, okay, I can survive, I will be fine. Also, I was extremely lucky with the family who took me and my daughter. And I really never had...
They're in Brandenburg, right?
Yeah, in small village named Stolpe. Yeah, I usually laugh in that I live in small village which is out of small city, which is out of Berlin. Yeah, and I never was feeling like in that, I never had that kind of family before, because my own was like not so supportive, not so attentive. And here I felt like I'm home. And I guess this was exactly the point which made me to feel more stable, because for the first, I had people who are really supporting me, not pushing. They like, take your time, you're fine, you can stay here as long as you need. We are totally on your side. We will help you with everything. And they really, really did. That was number one. Number two is...
Let me get into that for number one. Did you disclose your HIV status like ASAP, or how did that work?
I think I told about it in a few days.
And they didn't have a problem with it?
Actually... Not really. Like, the woman, she is a head of the family. She was a police officer before and also a nurse. So she didn't know all the information, but she was like able to take a lot of different information about me. And also I'm very open to explain and to tell like, hey, it can be scary, it can be, I don't know, frustrating, but feel free to ask me any question. Absolutely. I'm very open even for stupid questions and different emotions. And she was asking a lot. And I know that her husband, he was scared. But she told like, no, she is fine. And we're not going to do anything with that.
Did you worry about medication, that you would find a doctor, or are you so trusting in the world that you thought this is all gonna work out?
For the first, yes, I'm so trusting in the world and in universe, because like even when my HIV went, I didn't think it's something bad in my life. Like, okay, my universe supports me and it's my friend, so I'm gonna be fine. You know, this magical thinking helps me a lot. But also, because I had like my first comes to Europe was to AIDS conference in Amsterdam in 2018.
Oh, I was there. We could have met. Anyway, we didn't.
The universe, her friend said no.
Yeah, sorry. So, and that's why I knew some people like volunteering in this topic, and I had already people whom to ask how I can have medicines, what should I do? And also I was not really helping, but I had opportunity to help a little bit to people who are in other countries and have no idea what to do. Because I have these volunteers, I was asking them and they were sending medicines to Cyprus, for example, or to other countries, and also to Ukraine when it was really a problem. So yeah, that was not a question for me at all.
Speaking of the whole medical thing and the situation in Ukraine, when you got your diagnosis, how did that happen? How was that like?
Well, in my case, that was really funny because, as I told, I was working on medical project. So we all like first years medical students, you know, you're touching yourself, you're see anything like, oh my gosh, what the diagnosis can be. And at one point, exactly after making this interactive lecture about HIV, so I had all the information, I found my lymph nodes being like
also
larger.
the ones here?
Yeah, like
me.
5 of them.
Same with
and I'm
me.
like, am I a medical student or it's real? And I asked our doctor, like, can you check please, because maybe I'm crazy or so. And she, no, 5 of them are really larger, so might be it's time to go to doctor. And I'm like, okay, like lymph nodes. Before I had like what calls, like, my throat was aching, was hurting, and some rush in my body. And like, that was
So classical symptoms.
Yeah. And a month before that, I had unprotected sex. Oh my gosh, fuck! I know what's that. And I wait 1 more month until like it will be 3 months already. And I came to gynecologist, like, asking, I had unprotected sex. Now that was like this, so maybe we need to find something. And she gave me a lot of things to test. I did everything, but because that time we couldn't make HIV test in general laboratories.
Okay.
So you needed to go to AIDS center. And that's why that was too far, and I didn't really want to go because I knew that it is. Yeah. And at one point I came back like, okay, I did everything, just one thing missing. And she told like, okay, we can make a fast test. So that was fast test in private clinic. And the nurse, she took the test, and in 5 minutes I was sitting like, okay, when it's ready? And she saw, and like, yeah, and she's running away. And I'm like, is it a yes and I'm done with it, or what's that? And she came back like, okay, sit here, I will show you something. This is positive test, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, I know everything. So yeah, but in general, people have a few different places to have tests. Now it's not a big deal. Also, sometimes people are just buying them in drugstore.
Right.
Yeah, and making, I don't know, fast test before having sex with new partner. Yeah, so now it's not so difficult. The difficulty is to make people to test themselves.
Right.
Because in Ukraine, we still don't have this culture of testing. That's why when I have, for example, lecture about HIV or general sex rules, I'm always telling like, hey guys, if you have sex life, especially unprotected, even one time, just have a habit to test yourself. And they, but I'm married. And like, yeah, but I have a lot of stories when married girl or married boy sitting in the same line with me under the infectionist room, because they just trust the partner.
Yeah.
And it doesn't work like this. Sorry, but trust is not a medicine and not protection.
And HIV numbers are skyrocketing, right? In Ukraine also. The numbers are going really high, no?
Yeah, I think so. I'm not sure about statistics now, but before that was something like 240,000 people. And we told a few years ago that every maybe 5th person doesn't know that he or she, them are positive. And each year we had something like 3,000 people who are dying because of AIDS. And
Because they're
that's
undiagnosed.
terrible.
Yeah.
How did you talk to your child about this?
To be honest, I already have no idea, because she was 3 when I was infected and almost 4 when I started to talk openly. So, and first years there was a lot of talks around it. And I guess she was just asking me from time to time, like, what the HIV is. And I told her that, well, that's just disease and people can live with it. That affects immunity.
So that's basically just who mom is.
Yeah.
That's nothing. That's, she doesn't know any different.
Yeah, I think for her it's just an information, about me as well. And now she is she's already 10, and I have a lot of stories when I understand that she is totally fine. The funniest thing was a few months ago when in Berlin there was one more patient who
Who
tell
got
me the
healed
word.
in
Yeah.
quotation marks.
And I told like, hey, did you hear in news they told like about this patient? And she was like, does it mean that you also can be like healthy? And well, not really. Maybe later one day, but not really. And I'm sad about it. I'm sad about what? That you can be healthy because who you are without your HIV. And I'm like, what? You will be not so interesting anymore. And I'm like, well, I was thinking that I'm already done with this topic because I was talking so much about HIV and I don't really care anymore.
Right.
And
Same though. Same. I have people, because of this discussion, the Berlin patient, the London patient, all those people who are cured, in quotation marks, who don't have HIV anymore because of a bone marrow transplant. That was only part of their treatment because they had stage 4 cancer, and that was the last way to, help them. So it's not a feasible option for HIV positive people. It's a really drastic thing to do. But also, people would ask me, it's like, is that something you would ever consider? I was like, no, like I don't mind having HIV anymore. I don't care that I have it. I'm happy to talk about it because it helps other people, but it's not something I need to get rid of. It's not something I feel that's damaging my life in any way. It's not.
Sometimes I even forget that I have it.
Right.
The only one, like my alarms to take the pills, they remind me.
Yeah.
But you're very public with it. I mean, it's on top of your social media profiles that you're living with HIV. Is, to get back to the cuddle events, is that a topic of discussion?
Absolutely not, to be honest. Usually people even don't see it somehow in my profiles, and sometimes if they are asking or if it's a topic to talk, I don't know, about shame during cuddle sessions or something, I can talk about that as well. But mostly it's like people who are reading me, they know, but now I'm writing more about cuddles than about HIV. And I'm very open. Also, I have some intimate sessions, like in very like full body contact, and we're talking about HIV as well. But it's less and less and less interesting.
Right. I'm very interested in finding out about the fact that you're a woman and you're HIV positive. I'm sure that's a different experience as, for example, for me, people perceive me as a gay man. Being HIV positive, I'm kind of, like a cliche, whereas for you, it's something that is relatively rare, let's say, in the public opinion, in the public perception of HIV. How do you think your experience being HIV positive is different?
Well, for the first, in Ukraine, statistic is totally different. Because we have like more than 60% of HIV positive people in Ukraine, it's women.
I'm saying public perception is, they think
but
AIDS is for gay men.
I don't know. I was so surprised when in Germany, two people told me like, "Whoa, you're the first woman who told me that she is positive," because I was thinking it's for gay. But somehow I even didn't think of it. Anyhow, it's just part of my life. And I'm happy that I can tell that it's not about being gay or so, that it can affect anyone. Yeah.
And that it's so important for women to get tested and protect themselves.
Yes, very much. And also, to be honest, I was so surprised when last summer I was at POBI,
Positive Begegnung.
Dankeschön. So, and I met a few women and all of them were telling like, I'm activist, I'm doing a lot, but I will never say in the public that I'm positive because I have kids. And I was so impressed by that because in my case, exactly because I have a kid, that was one of the reasons why I should tell about that. And when my already ex-husband was telling like, hey, but she's gonna go to school, she's gonna go to kindergarten, like, don't you think that it will hurt her somehow? And if I should, and she should be scared because people don't know the information, and I can do something about that. Sorry, but I will feel very, very bad that I didn't. And as a result, it was so funny. She was in kindergarten. Somehow they started to the topic of illnesses, and somebody told about the cancer of their grandmom or grandpa, I don't know. And she told like, my mom has an HIV. And they, oh, wow, that's so scary. That's so dangerous. And actually, if the person takes care of themselves and take pills, they gonna be okay. And she was 5.
Amazing.
And I'm like, yeah.
Raising an activist.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Now if I'm sharing some stories like, hey, can you imagine? There was like a call from the person who's saying that he will not survive or will not have normal life. Oh my gosh, again, how they don't understand that they're okay. And I'm like, wow, why 10 years old?
So your kid is educating other kids, and you're educating other adults.
Very rare, but it looks like this, yeah.
Do you feel part of an HIV community already in Germany? Is that part of your everyday life?
I wouldn't tell that it's part of my everyday life. I'm not so active in community, but in some parts, because, for example, in November, there is Positiventreffen. And after POBI, I was invited to be there as a part of preparation group. And also, I will make training about sexual intelligence there. So yeah, at some topic, very, very small area, I feel quite connected.
When thinking about your future, what comes to mind?
Oh, such an interesting question. I have no idea, to be honest, because last year changed so much in me and in my life, but I definitely want to grow up. I definitely want to be more more professional in things which I'm doing. It is not only cuddle events, but also I would be happy to be educated as sexological body worker or sexual somatic pedagogue. That would be perfect, but it costs a lot for me now, so I need to find some ways to do it. Also, that was funny. I was waiting 1 year to education in Berlin, and then after 1 year, they told like, no education in English. And my German is super terrible.
Well, you can work on that.
Definitely,
and you don't need to in Berlin. That's kind of the problem.
Well, apparently she does.
Yeah, I was learning German 6 months. I was certificated for B1 level, and then a lot of stuff in my life happened, and I was having depression, and also was very difficult. And now, after 6 months without any practice, because in Berlin you don't really need it, my German is again somewhere like eins.
You are doing your cuddle events internationally by now. You just came from Barcelona, I know.
From Lisbon, yeah.
Lisbon it was, right?
Same but different.
same but different.
But I'm gonna go to Spain next month.
You're gonna go to Spain next month. And you're also preparing a workshop for soldiers, if I'm...
I want to prepare. One thing, in Ukraine, I had one very simple and small story when one girl in the morning before cuddle event sent me the message like, hey, I'm not really sure if I'm gonna come because I have a herpes on my lip, like a 10 coin. And I will feel uncomfortable, and pretty sure people will feel uncomfortable next to me. And I told like, well, your comfort is the first, but also I would propose you to check the reality. How real is your reality? Because I'm pretty sure for the first, we all know what the herpes is. For the second, we have no opportunity to kiss each other. And for the third, you always can make an instruction to yourself like, hey, I came like this, I feel uncomfortable. And usually that's already gone because you told about that. And she told
wear a mask or something. I mean,
and she told like, okay, I will come. And she came and totally forgot about it and had amazing experience. And after that, I started to think like, actually, I didn't think of it before, but now in Ukraine, we already have a lot of people with different amputations, like without legs, without arms, with trauma of face or something like this. And I want Cuddle to be a space where people, again, can train to feel normal. For the first, normal with their trauma, and also normal in contact with people who had trauma, not to hide themselves, like really to be inclusive. And that's one of the things which I want to work with. I already found a few people with who are more connected with this topic to talk with them and to understand how I can make it better. And also, if I will be lucky to participate the course about sexual work with soldiers who had trauma, I think it will really important for me as well. Because before I had experience working as surrogate partner, but never about the body, that was about mental health before. And now I'm really curious how it's going to work, because I feel that I can give a lot, but I still need to learn a lot and to educate myself.
Fascinating conversation.
Very much so.
Very much so. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for being part of the campaign. We're very happy to have you.
Yes.
If anyone wants to know more about Kristina and her work, and I think a lot of people do after this conversation, please have a look in the show notes. We link all the information we can find and that Kristina will provide.
Yes.
Again, very happy to have you.
Thank you.
We always finish with Happy World AIDS Day.
Happy World AIDS Day.
Because that's the campaign. And thank you so much for talking to us.
Thank you so much for calling me here.
Thank you.